we have some news. Some things have happened. So recently, Sean, I don't know if you've seen it, but there's been a huge influx of interest in this game made by a Chinese developer, very small developer. I think they said something like 10 to 15 people or something. I'm not entirely sure. I'll look it up while we're talking about it. But it's called Black Myth Wukong, and it is made in Unreal 4, and it's basically about Wukong. What's his name? I know his name is Wukong, but he doesn't have it like his name after that. Wukong, the blah blah blah, King. The Monkey King, whatever. He's a monkey.
Yeah, he's got like a bunch of names. It's the Journey into the West thing.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I've experienced Wukong and his various incarnations of his story.
Yeah.
I don't know how many more times I want to hear about the exact same myth, the exact same spin on that myth.
One interesting thing is I've watched the gameplay in that I like the
Sun Wukong.
Sun Wukong. Yeah. They like
take Goku Wukong.
Yeah, they take certain elements of myth and turn it into gameplay, right? Like kind of how you see in like Tsushima. Like Tsushima has like the winds. Like that's a part of Japanese folktale and myth that the winds often guide warriors, and a lot of times it's like through the spirits of their kin or their parents or something like that. They're guided through the winds. Follow the guiding winds. That's something they took. It was a part of Japanese folklore, and it was built into the game. And it makes it.
But there's no other mythology in that game, I think, right? I think that's pretty much the only supernatural-esque element.
Oh! In that degree, yes, they have certain things that you'll deal with that border on supernatural, but for the most part, it's just like a period piece, like Mongols are invading Japan, and kind of thing. Or Tsushima, the island of Tsushima, which was like, what was it, like the southernmost part of Japan? It was some off part of Japan, and that was like the first part of Japan that was invaded by the Mongols, and then
I thought Tsushima was the northern section of Japan.
It might be. I don't know. It's on the outskirts, and then they went through it.
Mongolia is north.
It's north. Yeah, so you're most likely right. China. Yeah, because Japan's low. So you're 100% right. I suck at geography, whatever.
Yeah, because the northern part of Japan is the part that gets all that nasty snow weather and shit.
Yeah, so I like the idea of taking the folklore, the myth, the stuff behind the story, and implementing that in the gameplay. I think that's cool. So like as you see, he shifts amongst his forms. Like Wukong can shift amongst like, I don't know, it gets up in the double digits, like 70 or 80 different forms. And they're all different animals. So like from a flea to I don't know what else. I don't know much about Wukong, but you get the idea. In the game, he turns into a fucking flea, and he uses it to stealth around, but he's seen by some kind of fox spirit or some shit. I don't know. I think I've watched this, and as much as people are excited for this, I understand the excitement because it kind of came out of nowhere, and it looks good. It definitely, production-wise, it looks really good. The character design looks clean. Animations look clean. It's using a lot of like Unreal Engine or UE4's like good suits, which is like its particle effects, it's like environmental design and all that other, or like the tools that they provide. The game looks gorgeous, and it has really good particle effect system. The combat animations look clean. The animations in general look really fucking good. I saw a lot of motion blur, and I hate that, so we're not gonna talk about that. But it just looks really fucking clean, and it came out of fucking nowhere. So it set the internet ablaze for a little bit, and the only thing that looks kind of worrisome about it, and it is still very early, I think it's pre-alpha gameplay footage that they showed off, or alpha gameplay footage, it's very early in its development, and it was very much something that they released to be PR. They wanted to start to build hype around for the game. The combat looks a little lackluster, not in what you can do, but like the feedback that is given by the combat. Like sometimes it's got like that thing where you're wailing on someone, right, Sean? And you're not seeing a lot of feedback in the model you're wailing on. So you're doing all these spins and flips and kicks and shit, and the monster's just standing there looking at you holding the same pose the entire time. You're not getting much feedback out of the models that he's hitting. At least in the boss fight, that's what it looked like. And that's something they'll probably polish out and fix up. Obviously, it's still early. So that was just the only thing that had me worried. But overall, the game looks fucking gorgeous. But real quick, so this is from EvoStrix. It's by Jay Nyla. And it says, after the 13-minute gameplay trailer exploded in popularity, Black Myth Wukong developer Fang G responded and provided an update on the game. Even without big traditional events happening this year, like E3, companies are still finding ways to announce games being worked on. One of the biggest surprises this week was the reveal of Black Myth Wukong, an action game that comes from the small Chinese-based development team called Game Science Studio. The reveal showed off some crazy shit. It pulled 10 million views on the Chinese video site Bilbil. Bilbil Along? I don't know what the fuck it is. And gained a sizable following across the globe. Many people have been talking about it and all this. So the founder has now responded to a large sudden recognition, stated that the group will disguise to proceed growth and apologize for issues that made it into the pre-alpha gameplay. Writing on Weibo and translated by Reset Era member Nightingale, the developer defined that the 13 minutes of gameplay used to introduce, I don't know why it's saying sport. Why they keep saying sport in this article, I have no idea. Which you'll watch under had been launched to be sincere concerning the sport. What the fuck is going on? What does that mean? Okay. In addition to assist appeal to extra potential workers to affix his firm. So he's trying to, again, it's a PR thing. Like I said, he's trying to garner hype. It's like, hey, if we can build interest in this product, get people on the thing, maybe get some funding, someone willing to pick up the product, a publisher, then we can do something with this kind of thing. So hopefully
the combat looks like a Souls game.
It does.
It just looks like a martial arts version of a Souls game.
Yeah.
Like the attacks are very deliberate. There's a lot of intentional pauses waiting for an attack animation to start or come at you.
Yeah.
It seems a lot like that, or like a faster version of a Souls game. You know what? It looks like the samurai one from last year that was so good.
Oh, Sekiro.
It looks like Sekiro, but
yeah,
with
I kind of see
bigger
that.
monsters.
I think Sekiro was also in UE4. I think.
It
I'm
looks
not
like
too sure.
Sekiro with bigger like Chinese mythical monsters. It's just Chinese Sekiro. If that's the case, I'm sure it'll do fine. The super challenge. It looks like the kind of game where all the enemies are very challenging. From the way the combat's handled, but you're right. Some of the attacks don't have as much weight as you would expect, which I kind of get.
Yeah.
But I'd like to see more weapon reaction to hitting rather than just swinging through something.
It doesn't say. It might not be UE4.
It doesn't look bad, but it doesn't. I mean, I'm not terribly fascinated with Wukong Son Goku, so
yeah.
The Journey into the West is something where I've done that over and over and over again. I personally liked the what was it, Sayaki or something like that. Forgive me if anybody knows what I'm referring to. There was an anime in the late 90s, early 2000s, probably early 2000s being a better, more accurate description, that was about, it was a retelling of Journey into the West. Sayaki, fuck, I don't remember, but
no
it was
idea.
really good.
So,
and it had him and his companions and all that kind of shit.
Yeah, but it looks interesting. Although this is something that's been told a lot, I don't think like the average gaming populace has seen a lot of this, because the only game I can think of that tells this story, wasn't there one on the 360 that had something like this?
It does a Journey into the West story? I don't know. There's a lot of them.
I don't remember one ever getting like big, like something that was.
I don't remember. I don't think any of them got big, but I played a few. I know that there were several that were released. Most of them were JRPG type.
Yeah.
A lot, or hack and slash like this one. This one also feels a bit like some of the set pieces with the giant monsters looks a little bit like that Kojima ruined Castlevania title that he helped fuck up.
Oh yeah, I like that he helped fuck up.
Which that was a bit more like Devil May Cry than I would say. I don't know, just a half monkey man has never interested me. The story was more interesting than the character. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
The myth.
Mm-hmm.
This looks a lot like a movie too, like a movie with bad CGI, where it looks too much like a video game.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I think they're just called like CG movies or something. I don't know, but
yeah, I would. That doesn't mean I wouldn't play it, but it hasn't piqued my interest. I've seen all the hype. It just hasn't blown my mind like everybody else.
I think for it being done by a small studio and relatively early access,
I don't know how much I believe about that being a small studio, though.
No, a small studio you can do this. That's what.
No. I'm just saying, like, China tends to hyperbolize
Oh,
their, exaggerate. Like, it's a small studio and they've only had a few months. In reality, they've been working on it for 11 years and it's 500 people.
Totally don't got 500 kids in the basement making shoes and shit. No. But
Good lord.
So the game still appears to be way off. There's no official word. It's going to be even released outside of China. However, the positive reception will no doubt go a long way for potentially helping a worldwide release. So far, Game Science has confirmed a release for PC, and what it describes as all mainstream host platforms. Likely means consoles such as the PS5, Xbox Series X, but fans will likely need to wait for the official confirmation to be sure. So a lot of it's literally just around the trailer that they've shown. And some talk.
Somebody's gonna have a fun time data mining that shit to make sure it's not frying into their network.
So it'd be very interesting to see.
And next, we're getting an action game from North Korea.
Yeah, it nukes your house. It's just a nuke from North Korea, actually. That is the action game.
You just get sent a missile.
Yeah.
Plug it into your USB port on your PS4 and then pray.
Yeah. It just starts beeping.
Collectible King Jong-un bubblehead.
Yeah, it just starts beeping. You're like,
What's that?
Is it supposed to do that?
Is it a puzzle game? Is this a rhythm game?
Yeah. I'm dancing. Hey. Yeah. All right. So we have a few, two more things. So WB Games Montreal has announced Gotham Knights, a Batman game without Batman poggers, but
Batman verse game.
So after over a year. Oh, this is from Tech Raptor. I don't know who wrote this. I don't see an author. If I find one, I will mention it. But Knights of teasing over a year. After over a year of teasing, with a final long ARG tease this past week, WB Games Montreal has finally revealed Gotham Knights, their next game. Starting with the supposed death of Bruce Wayne as Batman, Gotham Knights also has the destruction of the Batcave. On his death, a secret message goes out to his allies, telling him that they are needed as only they can defend Gotham without him there, especially after the death of Jim Gordon. Featuring Batgirl, Nightwing, Red Hood, and Robin, Gotham Knights shows a take on Gotham when the security of Batman is gone and the city is left to these heroes to defend. You'll be able to swap between characters during gameplay to experience and mix and match to find what you like, as well as play in two-player co-op. Gotham Knights prominently features the Court of Owls as a villain in comparison to past games. If you aren't familiar with them, I'm not reading this.
I am.
People that are who know. This also won't be WB Games Montreal's first rodeo with the Batman IP. The team also previously developed Batman Arkham Origins, which served as a prequel to the other Batman Arkham, and filled a spot on the release between Batman Arkham City and Batman Arkham Knight that Rocksteady developed. With Rocksteady now working on Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, they have taken up...
so this is the Barbara Gordon version of Batgirl. I thought they retconned her out of that role.
Well, she's back. They have taken up the Cal again and developed another Batman game. Batman Arkham Origins was criticized on release
for being... they retconned her back into it. Never mind, I remember. It's going to be Nightwing, Batgirl, Robin, and Red Hood.
Yeah. So, did you ever want a Batman game where you don't play as Batman?
Well, it's not a Batman.
Yeah, I'm just messing.
It's a Gotham game.
I'm messing.
It seemed I would need to know what they're doing with the story. Obviously, this is an alternate universe story, but it is taking some inspiration from the Battle of the Cowl. When Batman, Bruce Wayne died, again, usually when Batman dies, it's because he was busy saving Superman's ass or some shit. And it was just another one of those things. The big bad in DC is Apocalypse, because he tries to destroy the whole fucking planet. He's just big nasty. And Batman stopped him because Superman couldn't, but Batman basically got his soul ripped out of his body and essentially, for all intents and purposes, killed the fuck out for about a year. And in that year, they did the Battle for the Cowl, which was Damian Wayne and Nightwing and a handful of others taking on the role as Batman or fighting over who gets to be Batman. Although it was more the role changing hands frequently than it was fighting, but there was some fighting. And then them dealing with crime in their own different ways. And that was also Damian's redemption, where he went from being more like the Punisher as Red Hood into being more of an actual Batman-esque character, and I think Dick Grayson held the cowl for the longest, and then Batman came back. But they're kind of doing a different thing with the story. But it is true, Robin, Red Hood, Nightwing, and Barbara and Batgirl, although it was a different Batgirl, all came together to try and really keep things on lock, the whole Bat family, while Bruce was out of commission,
Yeah.
which was kind of cool. Even Gordon was Batman briefly a little while later,
Yeah.
but that was a dumb story.
So it looks like
So the gameplay doesn't sound like a bad idea, but it sounds like they're turning it into a beat 'em up
well, it plays like
investigative
it
thing.
very much looks like it plays like the Arkham games. I'm looking through it right now. It looks like a co-op. It looks like there's levels and some kind of currency. There's health. There's like levels on enemies and bars. You have abilities. So it kind of looks like an Arkham game with more of a focus on co-op and RPG elements.
I'll need to see more of it before I come to a decision, because there's been a bunch of fuckery going on in the DC world with a bunch of like SJW bullshit and just like corruption of the characters, breaking the characters, turning them into something they're not. Like kind of what they've been doing with the Marvel Cinematic Universe and with the Marvel books recently. DC's been following suit. And when I kept my mouth shut until they started fucking around with Batman, and then I got angry. I'm more interested in seeing what they're going to do with this alternate universe Batman cartoon they want to do, where Batman's black.
Yeah.
It's in another. I don't even know if he's going to be an alternate version of Bruce Wayne, or if it's a whole other guy who has replaced Bruce Wayne and is taking the Bruce Wayne role, but it's a different dude. Like, I'm more interested in that, because obviously I don't have a problem with that, because they're not fucking with canon Batman. This is an alternate universe. Alternate universes are a great way to explore different versions of a character. What would Batman be like if he did grow up black, or if he grew up Mexican, or if he was a female from birth? If he had always been this, if it had always been that way, or what would his villains be like? How would reimagining something is why all these alternate universes in DC and Marvel even exist,
Yeah.
because they wanted to try different ideas without fucking with the main universe. And when you're not fucking with the main universe, it's a playground. Go for it. So I'm interested in seeing the story they tell there. The best Batman cosplay I've ever seen in my entire life was a black dude, and he was playing the Yellow Lantern Batman. So he had the fear ring, which is perfect for Batman, who plays off of fear. And Batman has held the Yellow Lantern ring twice.
Gotcha.
So, like, I am interested in seeing that. This game, I don't have enough information on it yet. Like, if they're telling a good story and they're staying true to the books and true to Batman and not all the fucking that they've been doing in the books recently, I'm all over it.
What about the
But
what about just the
if they try and
idea?
spin it, I
Like
won't.
like the idea of it. So say like it's an Arkham game, which is something you're a huge fan of. Although this is made by the team that did the I think probably the worst one.
Origins.
Yeah, the one that was I think that was one that was lauded the most.
Origins.
Is that lauded?
Origins wasn't Rocksteady. It was another studio that was
Yeah,
given
that's this studio.
a blessing
That's
from
this studio.
Rocksteady. Yeah,
Montreal.
Origins wasn't bad. It just didn't do anything to push it forward.
Yeah.
And all it did do was it was like slightly less good than the first game.
Well, the good news
Like,
is
it was still solid, but all of the other games were just much better, and all they did was take someone else's idea and keep doing that exact thing for like 8 hours.
Yeah, how about the idea of a Batman game, but it's multiplayer? You can play with someone else. Was that?
What I find interesting about it is the ability to jump into characters I know and love very well: Red Hood, Robin, Nightwing, and Batgirl. And my favorite Batgirl is still Barbara Gordon, and it's Barbara Gordon. And have fun with them. But I'm also interested in seeing what universe is this supposed to take place in. Are you just making up a whole new alternate universe? Or are you taking us through a story that's existed in a pre-existing alternate universe? And how much respect are you having for the characters? Like, are we gonna get into some sort of social fucking conversation halfway through? or are we legitimately going to be doing a comic book story? Because that's something I'm going to want to know.
Yeah.
I don't want to be preached to by a video game. Don't get me wrong, I'm not against politics being in video games. I'm not saying that. But I know Batman very well. I know what works in the book and what doesn't. I know where the book has gone, where it is now. And there's certain things I don't like with what it's been doing, and certain things are still great.
Wouldn't it be bad?
So
Okay, I'm just.
I want to see what they do with the characters. That's going to be the big sell for me, is how they handle the characters.
I'm just watching the gameplay like muted while we're talking, and Batgirl, whatever fuck her name is,
Batgirl.
she has her hair down, and it's like pseudo long. It comes up to her shoulders.
She's always had her hair down. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, no, that's
Wouldn't that be?
true. There was one outfit.
I mean,
that
I
didn't
guess they
it,
have
but-
capes, and that'd be bad. I was thinking like the practicality of it. Would it be bad to have your hair down like that instead of pushing it into the cowl? But that was just a thought. That's a shower thought.
Well, Barbara had her hair down just past her shoulders.
It's kind of cool though,
And
because
Cassandra had a full cowl, so her face was covered, the back of her head was covered. It was all black. Like I had this really badass Cassandra Cain. I think it's Cain, but the second Batgirl, I had her figure, and it was really, really nice.
yeah, it looks like they have, but it looks like there's RPG elements, there's abilities, probably maybe gear progression. I'm not entirely sure. They didn't show much of that. A lot of it was like they were picking up some kind of resource when they were killing things, and I mean, I like the idea that
That's her old outfit.
It's
I think
also
it's blue and yellow. Is that the one?
it's like purple, either purple and yellow or blue and yellow. I don't know. The game
Does
is
she
not.
have like a little fucking headpiece?
Yeah, it's
or
small.
like
It goes over just her eyes, and you can see most of her head, and like
That's a
or most of
domino
her face.
mask. Yeah.
But I mean, it looks interesting. It really depends how they do it, because like the cooperative element sounds interesting for a Arkham game, like stealth taking down people together and planning things. But then,
Are they doing this in the Arkhamverse?
I'm not sure.
That would be intriguing.
It just says that Batman's died, and that in the
I think
trailer,
this is inspired by Batman Arkham Knight. Okay.
I would assume so, because in the trailer they're fighting the frosty guy. I don't know, the dude that shoots ice everywhere. I suck with
Mr.
DC.
Freeze.
Yeah, they're fighting him. He's frozen up like this whole area, and you're traversing up it to turn off the ice shit or whatever. I don't fucking know. But from what I saw, it looks really cool, and I think the idea of a cooperative Batman game with stealth elements would be interesting. But the thing that I'm thinking is it would fall very heavily on how they design the levels. The levels have to afford creative play from not just one but two people, that both players are having fun. So it would really come down to how well they design these levels. The level they showed looked very interesting, and there are multiple floors, and everyone has grappling hooks, so one person can elevate themselves and try to take people from the top. Some people can play around at the bottom. But I don't necessarily think they needed RPG elements. Like there's damage numbers, health bars, levels. Is that necessary? I'm not entirely sure, but it looked pretty clean. Like the presentation was awesome, and
I don't like how they drew Bruce. And they drew him awful. His face looks terrible.
Where are you seeing Batman himself? I didn't see him in
He
the
left a
world premiere.
message. No, I'm watching the opening movie. He's saying, if you're hearing this,
trailer.
I'm dead. Yeah. And I saw Damian first, and then I saw Barbara, and Barbara didn't cry, which doesn't make any sense. And then they showed Nightwing, and then they showed
is that him? Batman?
Nightwing was.
He kind of looks like Sam Fisher. What the fuck?
Yeah, he looks. It doesn't work. I don't like his face at all. If they didn't know how to fucking make his face, they should have just had him wearing the cowl.
Is Barbara literally his daughter? I don't know anything about
No, Barbara is Commissioner Gordon's daughter.
Oh, okay.
The guy with the scar was Red Hood. That's Damian. That's his son. And that's Barbara's third costume, which was a remake of her first or second costume. I don't remember which.
So I wonder if they'll do.
It does look like an Arkham game.
Yeah, the fighting, very much so.
I don't know how you would mix. I want to know. I think I know which Robin that is, but I'm curious if that's Tim.
It looks
I think
dope.
that's Tim.
It really comes down to, is it going to be like as open as the Batman games? How, are you going to have it's just like two people running around an open world doing whatever the fuck they want, and you go together on missions? It comes down very much to how they do it, and what we've seen from it is very much like
I'm all
instanced
about playing
things.
Nightwing.
It's very much instance things though, from what we've seen. Like they're in the building doing one of the missions. I want to see like the play, like in between all the cool shit. Like
You
where
mean the
the
open
play
world
is.
stuff?
Yeah, the
When
open
you're
world
not
shit.
going into it, when you're not going into a dungeon,
Yeah.
so to speak.
Is it gonna fall
Yeah,
prey to like?
this actually looks pretty good. Like, I heard a lot of critical derision when people first talked about it, but this doesn't look bad. It's just I'm so tired of the what if scenarios. I'd rather play through a canon moment in comic book history, and they've ever since the original Arkham Asylum, it's always been its own universe,
Yeah.
which means they've killed heroes and villains pell mell. Oh, they've got a more current. They've got her with the full cowl too in the
Yeah.
trailer. This doesn't look bad. I mean, bear in mind, I don't trust WB at all with how they handle their properties anymore. Like, they just shit all over the legacy constantly.
All right.
So
Yeah. No. I again.
oh, there's the Council of Owls.
With their only product, Montreal, with their only product within this pseudo connected franchise of the Batman games, being the worst rated one, I'm just a little reserved.
Again, people were expecting it to be a full sequel, and it wasn't really. It
Yeah.
didn't push the envelope. It just repeated more of the same, and that's why it wasn't as exciting. Like, everyone that played was there, like, yeah, it's all right, but like, whereas all of the Arkham mainline series games felt like sequels, this didn't feel like a sequel. It felt like an expansion that they didn't put as much effort into.
Yeah, but this looks
You know?
maybe this was the reason because they're working on this shit the whole time. I don't fucking know. It
No,
looks
dude. Origins was a long time ago.
yeah, but games take a while. I don't know. Well, I'm very interested to see how it plays out. It won't be something I buy day one, but would be interested to pick up if it gets very good reviews. So, but it looks cool, and I loved the Arkham games. I loved the gameplay of them. I loved the Batman that they made. I loved the Gotham they depicted. It was all great. Being a very casual fan of DC, but
I just wish they hadn't gone all death happy. Like,
oh yeah,
I understand they wanted to tell a self-contained story. They were basically pulling a Christopher Nolan. We've got a definitive beginning and a definitive end. We don't intend to tell any stories outside of this, before or after. This is all you get. So because of that, we can give a certain finality to some characters, which is why they were more than willing to kill Ra's al Ghul. They were more than willing to kill Bane, to kill Talia. Like, they were willing to do that because the story was meant to be contained inside of this egg and never leave there. And Arkham was supposed to be the same way. They're like, look, we're not telling a comic book story or a movie story or a cartoon story. We're taking, pick and choosing different elements. We're telling our own story, which was great for the first game because nobody got killed. But they made this mistake of fucking the Joker doing something the Joker would never do. And he took that formula and injected it into himself, and then he became like the last fight was like the worst part about Arkham City, or sorry, Arkham Asylum. And then they took it in the only direction they could after that, which was killing the Joker. So the Joker gets killed in at the end of Arkham City, and then you fight Clayface. I think you actually kill Clayface, and then in the third game, Ivy dies. I don't
I remember
remember who else
Ivy
died.
dying.
Somebody else died. Huh?
Okay, I remember Ivy diving, but okay.
Yeah,
So
Ivy died, and someone
so
else died, and
thoughts?
killed a bunch of good people.
We excited? You're excited for Gotham Knights?
I am
In the same boat as
I
me,
am
kind of.
pleasantly curious.
Okay.
Yeah. I would be willing to buy it if I know it was handled at least as well as the Arkham games. Like, the Arkham games, I did not like the story from the end of Arkham City going forward, but I love the gameplay. I love the appreciation they had for the characters. even though they made story choices by killing certain things and one behavior that the Joker, I still don't see the Joker injecting himself with Titan serum. That just doesn't make sense at all. But other than that, they handled the characters well all the time. It really felt like I was in Gotham. I was doing Batman shit, and I loved it. I just didn't love them killing off characters.
All right.
Um,
Okay, so we have one
so
more thing.
outside of that, like it was, if it follows that suit, then I would be more than happy to buy it.
Yeah, I think so too. If I hear good news surrounding it, then I'll be excited to pick it up and just play.
You can definitely use me as a barometer of quality Batman games, because of quality Batman games, there's only been 5, 6 maybe. So there's not been a lot.
Yeah. So we have one more thing real quick.
7. Sorry, I forgot the Batman Returns game.
All right, so we have Sega will aggressively focus on PC ports after the Steam strength during lockdown. So, basically what this means in layman's terms, Persona 4 Golden came out on Steam, and it performed amazingly well. It sold
It's a great game.
Yeah, Persona 4 Golden, I love Persona 5.
Game.
Don't get me wrong. But I love Persona 4 Golden just a little bit more, although I think there's strengths to each, right? I think the story and characters in 4, I enjoyed a hand over, like, much more, like a fuckload more than 5. I love the characters in 5, but I love the characters in 4 much more. I love the story in 4 much more.
The story was a little bit grimmer in 4, too,
yeah,
because
very
it was
much.
a serial killer.
Yeah, very much. I like the presentation and music and dungeon design in 5 more. Obviously, there actually is dungeon design in 5. Like 4, very much it's randomly generated. I mean, they all have like follows aesthetic and stuff, and you'll still have a boss.
Yeah, I wasn't terribly fine with them. It was just go down the hallway, explore the rooms, go up the stairs,
but
go down
5,
the hallway, explore the rooms, go up the stairs.
Yeah, the dungeons in 5 are like a full-on experience that have like they're all built certain ways. They're
more like a Final Fantasy dungeon.
Yeah, from start to finish, they are finally crafted for a certain experience or what the devs are trying to do. And I think that's the way they should be. No, like, randomly generated. But that's something that I think is very much like a restriction of the time. Not even necessarily.
Because I think you also had a difference in the narrative too, because the focus on 4 was not the dungeons.
Yeah.
The dungeons served to push the exterior story, less more so than a vehicle. Like, I spent more time, because an average dungeon run in Persona 4 would take you 10 minutes.
Depends on your difficulty.
20 minutes maybe. Yeah, but like, worst case scenario, you weren't in there longer than I think maybe 20 or 30 minutes, except for the end game dungeon and some of the challenge dungeons. But outside of that, like, I really didn't spend as much time. Like, and there was a lot of dense story occurring in the very beginning, and then afterward when you came out of these dream dungeon things. And most of the time when you were inside, there'd be little spots where you'd talk to each other, or the characters would say something, but you were mostly just, scissors, paper, rocking your way through fights.
Yeah.
And I felt like it was more just a dungeon was a stepping stone to progress the story than a major event by itself. Don't get me wrong, they tried to make the major events, but they didn't feel. There were only certain moments in the dungeons that felt that way. Most of the other time, it just felt like work.
Yeah.
It was fun work, but it was something that I would have gladly skipped to get to the rest of the story. Whereas the little bit I got to play of 5, like, the dungeons were much more involved and much more carefully woven in, so you didn't feel like there was as much work, and you felt like you were really in the story, fighting your way through an action part of the story instead of just doing some busy work so you could push forward to the next part of the story.
Yeah.
Persona 4 was largely a visual novel.
I can see that.
Largely
visual novel. I like the way they built the social aspect 5 more than 4 too. I had much more of a want to go out. And don't get me wrong, I had a want to go hang out with the people 4, but I was largely because of the characters of 4, not what I was doing. But in 5, I just wanted to explore how they built out Tokyo, because they did such a fantastic job of making it lively, making there with content around every corner and doing shit that way.
You were actually able to do it too. You weren't just looking at an overhead map, selecting a location, teleporting into the location and then going through a visual representation of a conversation. You're actually walking through a mall or walking down a street. Like there was more interactivity.
Yeah. But yeah, so basically, so Sega's come out and they're like, okay, this is from gamesindustry.biz. It's by Matthew Handrahan. Don't know his name or how to pronounce it. But he says Sega will start aggressively porting games from its back catalog to Steam due to the strength of digital PC sales during the COVID-19 lockdown. The Japanese publisher's entertainment contents division, which includes video games, was the sole performer in an otherwise dismal Q1, as the global pandemic's impacts on arcades, pachinko parlors, and holiday resorts dragged on its bottom line. In an investor Q&A released today, Sega said that the repeat sales of its catalog increased significantly in March and April this year, while that growth slowed during June and July. Sales were still higher than 2019. The key platform during that period was Steam, specifically in Europe and the US, with consumers purchasing digital games during the lockdown. Sega highlighted the performance of Persona 4 Golden, in particular, PlayStation Vita game from 2012 that launched on Steam in June this year. Sales of the PC port were significantly higher than expected, the company said, and that has influenced the strategy going forward. And that's exactly what I fucking wanted, bro. I knew I was most likely not going to finish Persona 4.
Did you buy it yet?
I did. I bought it the day it came out.
Man.
I bought it the day it came out.
You didn't tell me that.
No, yeah, I even streamed it for like a day. I played like
Such a good game.
I played like 8 or 9 hours. Not probably closer to like 15.
You did not tell me the truth. You were like 8 or 9 hours in, and it only felt like you'd been playing for like 2 hours.
Oh yeah, no, it flies by. But
it just so flies by. Like my first night with Persona, I was gonna play it for like 2 hours, and I just called into work the next day. I was like, "Fuck it, I need a power nap and I have to go back in. Like I've got to meet this dude for lunch. We got to go pick out a TV. That girl's coming over for dinner. I got to go talk to that dude in the limo." And the golden version adds that limo girl in as a new character that you can join in as well.
Yeah.
And befriend, which was awesome because she's the hardest one to get.
But like it was one of those things where I bought it solely because I wanted to express my absolute like support for what they did putting 4 on
But
PC.
I might buy it too. I don't even have a computer. I don't have my Vita anymore.
I mean, the good thing has already happened, though. That's good. So they've seen that people want this game. I knew I wasn't going to play it again all the way through. I played it for a bit for the nostalgia. It wore off, and I went back to what I was doing during the time, which was most likely Final Fantasy XIV. But I knew 100% I wanted to show Sega, I wanted to show them that people want Persona on PC, and they saw that people want Persona on PC. So this is very exciting.
Back catalog of fantastic games. Still, I've never seen Sega. Like I grew up in the Nintendo versus Sega area. I know I'm dating myself, but you all know I'm Papa Thought Patrol. I'm the eldest of the group. But I grew up in that era when the big opponents were Nintendo and Sega. I was a little kid then. So I remember that well, and I was always on the Nintendo side of the fence. And this is before I knew what it was like to get into edgelord conversations, and there wasn't anything particularly edgy. So you were looking at the quality of the gameplay, not the adult content or the bravery in tackling difficult subjects. You were looking at the actual gameplay. That's all you ever cared about. And Nintendo was able to beat the pants off of Sega's Master System. Their 8-bit efforts just fell to the wayside, and they had some good 8-bit games. The Genesis, the sound chip was garbage, and it was only slightly faster processing than the Super Nintendo, and the colors were washed out. Overall, it didn't have what you would think enough. Like the Super Nintendo sound chip was kind of murky, but it had way more breadth and depth of sound than the garbage that the Genesis could come up with. But the Genesis to this day, alongside the TurboGrafx 16, still has some of the best shooter soundtracks of all time. Because even if you're dealing with a garbage chip, if you know what you're doing, you can turn out some amazing tunes.
Yeah.
And the system is legendary for having some of the best shooters. I think TurboGrafx might edge it out, but they still, both of them, are phenomenal for having some of the best soundtracks for shooters of all time. And Genesis has some really legendary games. They've got, because they couldn't get a lot of the third-party stuff that came out on Nintendo because of their restrictive guidelines. So they had to come up with their own, or they had to sit there and work with developers to come up with something that would give a similar playstyle experience while giving a fresh idea, a fresh look, a fresh game. So you have huge series and franchises and things that developed on the Genesis that were only experienced by Sega fans, and the rest of the world doesn't know about these things. I do, because I got to play some of them. But I think it's a fantastic opportunity to bring back some of these series, these beloved series that are excellent, fantastic gameplay experiences that nobody's had a chance to play.
Yeah.
The only downside is that it's all retro gaming stuff. So there's definitely a huge chunk of the younger audience that's not going to be interested. Yeah, I mean, you really only see your 20 somethings and up go, you know what? I just care if the game's fun to play. I don't care if it's got realistic polygons. So let's see what this has to offer. And that's really where that's going to be a big seller. But what I think is a huge thing and why this is so big is because there is a large pocket of games that came out on the Saturn and the Dreamcast that nobody's been able to have again. They haven't been re-released. They have not been. They're difficult as shit to emulate, especially the Saturn. So I think this is a great opportunity to bring those two back catalogs back to life. Like have us just completely port the Saturn library over, and port the Dreamcast library over, and they will make millions.
Okay, so let me finish the article real quick. So going forward, we intend to aggressively promote the porting of previously launched titles to Steam and other new platforms, Sega said. Under such direction, we would like to take multi-platform rollouts in account and prepare the PC version and others from the start, which again,
Good.
very good. Because if Sega sees the success with their titles, again, it's just another sign for other companies as well. Like, hey, Sega's recently started to. I mean, most companies do this now, but Sega's like, it's just, again, another push. Like, hey, Sega's making their games from the start. They're launching on PC right away. We're not holding them for a fucking year or 6 years to come on PC later because Sega knows there's money there. So they're getting in on that market. Let's try and get on that market too with our games. Let's make our PC versions right off the bat, get our PC ports or whatever they have to do. The PC versions of the games are launching at the same time they're coming out on other systems because we know there's a market there, and Sega's had success with that market. But it says under such direction, we would like to. I already said that Sega has a robust PC-focused business in its games operations outside of Japan, with some of the industry's leading strategy and simulation developers in its portfolio. Creative Assembly, Relic Entertainment, Amplitude Studios. Yeah, Sega owns the people that do the Total War games, like Total War Warhammer. I think one of the newer ones is the Total War Troy games, and those games are very popular in the simulation crowd. Relic Entertainment, Amplitude Studios, and Sports Interactive are all owned by Sega, and their games are likely on to have driven the company's performance on Steam during the lockdown. These comments suggest that Sega's management in Japan has recognized the strength this provides and will now make PC an equal priority on all new releases. So fucking great. Does this guarantee that we'll see the next Persona game on PC? Not necessarily, but there's a much higher chance now that Persona 6 may launch on PC at the same time. Or we'll even see Persona 5 Royale coming to PC, which would be dope in and of itself. So, yeah. But, so we're going to, I mean, we've gone on long enough this episode, but we're just going to talk about some of the games that we might like to see come over. And I know Shawn mentioned a few, but, like, I don't know how it would work or how easy or not easy it would be. Where we were just going to list a few that we thought would be cool. I know they have Jet Set, I think. So Jet Set might be cool, seeing that be ported over to PC if it's not already. I don't even know what the fuck. What does Sony own, bro? I don't even know. I'm gonna look it up because I am dumb.
What do you want? Well, I'm sorry. What did you say?
Oh, dude, give me the entire every game ever to exist. Super Monkey Ball, please. Give me the first Super Monkey Ball and the second Super Monkey Ball. Please.
Yeah, instead of the fucking one that they did release.
Yeah, the only one they put out is the trash one.
Was the shitty one.
I want the first Super Monkey Ball, please. I will cry. I fucking adore that game so much. I love Super Monkey Ball. What else is on here? Virtua Fighter.
What kills me? I'm sorry, this is a side thing, but they wrote Arkham Knight and made I can't fucking remember his name right now for some reason. My brain died. But they made Robin Arkham Knight when Arkham Knight was a woman. It was the daughter of Jeremiah Arkham. She's just a crazy bitch from Arkham Asylum who built a Batman suit and ran around killing people with a sword.
Nice. The Hatsune Miku games are also Sega. Maybe see those on Steam if they're not already. I don't think they are. There might be a Hatsune Miku game on Steam. Hatsune Miku. All they have is
give you a whole fucking list of shit.
All they have is the VR games on there right now. But I would love to see the Project Diva games come to them.
You got the Lagoon games.
Are those strictly
all the
Sega
Virtua
though?
Games. Yeah. You got that one. I can't remember the name of it right now, but it was like a Zelda game, but it's done Arabian Nights style. So you've got like a little curved dagger, and it's top down like adventure. I can't fucking remember the name of the game right now. There's so many good games. The Galarians games. There's one that was a Zelda clone that was better than Zelda because you could move diagonally and you could jump.
Oh shit, Augers.
Yeah.
Did you talk about Blaster Master? That was on the Genesis.
Blaster Master,
but
was
that's
Nintendo.
not. It's on the.
That's Sunsoft.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
There is a really cool version of Blaster Master that they did release on Genesis, if I remember correctly.
Bubsy.
No.
I'm just checking. I didn't have a Sega.
On games.
The only things I've enjoyed from Sega is from Atlas, who they bought, and then
Phantasy Star
and the Miku games. That's all I know. Oh, Phantasy Star is. I never played those though.
Yep. Thunderblade, R-Type. They had a version of R-Type on Genesis. It was unique.
I didn't know.
Actually, all the R-Type versions were different.
I didn't know Arc System Works made Battletoads, or at least the Battletoads on Sega. No, they've made the one on the Genesis.
I didn't know they existed back then. Oh, by the way, From Software didn't make Tenchu. They just helped publish it. It's another company that made Tenchu.
Gotcha.
For those of you who remember that one podcast where we said that wrong, I'd like to correct that.
I didn't have a Sega system, so
I had a Dreamcast. I bought it to play a game that they ended up canceling, which was the beginning of my hatred of Konami. I bought it to play what would have been Castlevania Resurrection, which was going to be Sonia Belmont, which is the one from the main character from Castlevania Legends, which was the last actual Game Boy Castlevania game, which ended up being the very first in the Castlevania timeline. She was the first Belmont that fought Dracula, and they had a whole romance built between her and Alucard. And then after Resurrection failed, they, for reasons I cannot begin to fathom, decided to decanonize her and remove her as a character.
There's a game
she no longer exists in the timeline now.
There's a game called The Lawnmower Man.
It's awful.
Sounds awful. The picture's kind of creepy though. Yeah, it's a CD-ROM.
Yeah, it's bad. It was a bad game.
Was the movie bad?
Really doo-doo. The movie was not awesome, but it was supposed to be a horror movie. It was just dumb.
It sounds dumb. Why The Lawnmower Man?
They took a guy who was very slow, and this scientist basically used a computer and used virtual reality to hack the guy's brain and turn him into a genius. But when they did that, it twisted the guy and he gave him a god complex. And then he started killing people with technology, and he took over the building and became this like computer cyborg death warrior thing. It's fucking stupid. Don't bother. It's not even worth me explaining. It was terrible. It was a Stephen King story that just wasn't good.
Damn, his plan was to reach the final stage of evolution by becoming pure energy in the computer mainframe. That sounds like a 90s movie. It
was pretty bad. Yeah, Michael Jackson's Moonwalker is a classic. It's really good. Comic Zone was fantastic. Beat 'em up game, super fun. You had Vector Man, the whole Streets of Rage series with Sega. Gunstar Heroes, which was a treasure game, I think, if I remember correctly, which was a run and gun that was super fucking good. Echo the Dolphin was not exactly the best fucking game as far as I'm concerned, but a lot of people remember it fondly, and it was an interesting, not platforming game. Yeah, a lot of Neo Geo titles that made it over onto it, like Samurai Showdown, which and Fatal Fury and shit like that made it on there. The Mortal Kombat games had their best uh, console versions in terms of the gore and the speed being on there. I still prefer the Super Nintendo versions personally, but I just like the controllers better. Of course, you have the Sonic the Hedgehog series. You had the slightly better Earthworm Jim version. You had the Mean Bean Machine game. I already mentioned the Fantasy Stars. You had Sword of Vermilion, which is a great classic JRPG.
Okay. So I'm
Beyond Oasis was the one I was trying to remember though. That game was fantastic.
So I'm in the Lawnmower Man like rabbit hole, bro.
Why are you
I
in
don't
that?
know.
Shining Force, by the way, is a great one.
Nice. Was Mega Man Sega? No, right?
They had a game on there. They also had a sim for Dune, Battle for Arrakis.
Who owns the
Toe Jam
name
and Earl,
of Mega Man though?
Rockman.
No.
The version
Like
on
what company?
Sega?
No, what company? Like
Capcom.
Capcom. Okay, thank you. I thought it'd be cool if they somehow got the
It was
fucking.
called Mega Man: The Wily Wars. It was like a 16-bit version of all the original games crushed together.
Gotcha.
The first 3 games. It was a remake of the first 3 games.
But so they made a movie based on a Stephen King novel, but it had nothing to do with the Stephen King novel. Because
it didn't really pull from the book very well. It was bad.
Oh, okay, interesting. The book sounds bad too, to be honest. About
I'll tell you about Stephen King. He has a great vision, because all of his novels take place in the same universe.
Just can't
And
write well.
they all relate to each other. And if you look at everything as the grand picture, it's fascinating and incredible. And some of his stories are written very well, but other ones take an entire chapter to describe a bloody fucking truck. Like he spends way too much time on some detail and not enough time on others. Sometimes he'll spend, like, there's one book that is literally a conversation going down a long road. That's the whole fucking book. And everybody constantly having flashbacks, and when they tell stories, you get to read the story. But it's just a handful of people walking down a road. That's the book. Like, if you look at it, the overall picture, he's a brilliant writer. And if you look at his short stories, which is where I think his best writing comes out, they're phenomenal. But when you look at his overall books, to me, it's very hit and miss because he's a little too wordy. He goes a little too deep. He wastes a lot of time. Like, I think that for a long time, I liked Clive Barker more than Stephen King because Clive Barker was able to tell the same density of a story, but he was much more efficient with how he told his stories. He didn't spend as much time overdoing it, gilding the lily, so to speak.
Yeah.
And King just has a tendency to do that. He has a tendency to go too deep into what the interior of the bloody truck was like and the texture of the shoelace. And somebody will sit there and have a soliloquy or a monologue with themselves for like 8 pages about how uncertain they are. When Clive Barker would take that entire conversation but fit it into 2 paragraphs and have the same amount of punch. He was just a lot more efficient. The problem with Clive is Clive was a very angry person and very negative person, and that came out in his writing. And there's a whole reason for that there's no need for me to get into. But if you want to read a elevated, condensed, improved, much more palatable version of Stephen King, then read anything by Neil Gaiman. Like, he takes the idea of how Stephen King liked to tell these stories that are dark fantasies more than just straight up horror and refines it. So, like, I don't even turn people on to Stephen King or Clive Barker anymore. I just send them straight to Neil Gaiman. He is the purified essence of those 2 writers.
Gotcha. All right.
And to just improved formula.
I'm done with the Lawnmower Man rabbit
best.
hole. So any other things real quick before we wrap up the show?
I think that you're going to see a lot more people porting shit over to PC and taking their
Please.
time with it now,
Nipples. Please, so
which is
hard.
good because I'm really sick and tired. I love emulation because it gives me access to games I can't play anywhere else. But I hate emulation because it's never perfect, right? Like you really got to have a perfect eye and a perfect ear and a perfect muscle reflex memory to know if a game is playing perfectly, right? But these publishers, they know. They've got all the stats in their games. They know exactly how a game running 1-to-1 is and how a game that's distorted because it's not running on hardware, it's running on software emulation. They're going to know. They're going to know exactly what's perfect and what isn't. And I hate having to sit there and fuck with settings that I don't quite understand in an emulator to try and get a specific game to run hardware perfect. So it would be great to see these publishers put the full effort in, not the lazy effort, and give me a shittily emulated game, but put in the full effort and give me a perfect 1-to-1 transition from the original title. The bad part is you're going to see a lot of games that had sponsors or partnerships that they don't have anymore, where they're going to have to remove characters or remove levels or remove shit like that because they can't put that game out and still have those same product placements or what have you in there, or same partnerships. Like it would be like if
Or they just won't port those.
Marvel versus Capcom had a guest character from Konami in it for some reason, and then they port it over, they'd have to take that Konami character out.
Yeah, or they'll just won't port those games.
And I'd rather them port it and take the character out, like what they're having to do with Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne, which still fucking kills me because that Dante fight was so much fun. But they're just going to have the original Japanese fight in instead. I'd rather them do that than nobody get to play Nocturne. Nocturne's an amazing game. It's the most difficult JRPG I've ever played. And I can't wait to have the experience to get back in again. I still have my copy. It's in storage.
Nice.
But it's stupendously hard. So I'd like, at the very least, people will get to come close to being able to experience what came in the past and they've missed out on. Like Persona fans, especially, like JRPG fans that love certain franchises, and a lot of them are coming in new. They didn't come in at the ground floor, but they want to have been there. And I'm hoping that with this renaissance, this computer gaming renaissance, where a lot of this retro stuff is coming back, that more people will have the opportunity to be able to experience those stories, those games, those narratives, again, fresh from the beginning and be able to be part of that club,
Yeah.
I think that'd be great.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I wish they'd do that for consoles.
Yeah. Maybe. Never know. But yeah, it's very, very much an exciting thing. And I think,
where's my Jack and Daxter fucking remaster?
I think
Sony.
I think it'd be very. I think maybe their high priority with how good Persona 5 did would be trying to get Royale onto the PC. I don't know if they have something going on with PlayStation where they can't do that.
Royale will be on the PC. It's just going to be time.
Yeah.
They already said they'll eventually release a version of it.
Yeah, so, yeah, and depending on the situation at that time, I may be more interested in playing it. I don't know. It depends, because Personas are big games, right? So it really depends what was going on at that time, what would be going on at that time. But, yeah, so, again, thank you for tuning in. Are you guys excited for Gotham Knights? More Sega games on PC? Let us know. We'd appreciate it. Write some questions into the show. We want to hear from you guys. And feel free to show us to a friend that you know doesn't have any particularly any moral guidelines, because we don't want to offend anyone. Actually, we do want to offend people. But so, what fucking time is it? It's late. But we're going to go ahead and wrap up the episode. Again, thank you, everybody. We truly do appreciate you guys tuning in each fucking week to listen to us babble. It means a lot. It definitely does. So, we're going to wrap it up. Shawn, as always, my man, with the plan.
Yo. Yeah. I'm changing it up today.
Oh.
It's going to be the first time ever
Oh
that
my
I've
god.
said this.
Oh my god.
And I'm lying. Hugs and kisses and all your pink parts.
Fuck. I was so excited. All right, well, that baffled me. I need to look for a fact. Oh no, I'm gonna just start making these up at some points. Just gonna make them
thought you'd
up.
start doing that a long time ago.
No.
Did you know the first cardboard box was invented in 1876 when
Yes.
somebody got bored with their socks?
Don't Google it, kids. Google's a liar and a vixen. All right.
A vixen. Google
Yeah.
is a vixen.
Yeah.
That's Google is a
She'll slob.
chick
Yeah,
in stockings.
Yeah, and she's gonna slob all the information about you through your knob.
Through your knob.
Yeah.
What? How
Yeah.
does that even make sense?
Slob on my knob? You never heard that?
No, she's gonna slob the information about you through your knob.
Yeah.
Through your knob.
Yeah, through your knob.
You didn't know about you, but
No,
now that you've had it
yeah.
spit into your dick hole.
No, yeah. Exactly. See, I'm glad you get me,
hope
Shawn.
for you sometimes.
So,
Sam, I think you need to come back. Your
No, he
jokes are
doesn't.
probably not as bad as what I just heard.
no, he doesn't. He doesn't need to come back. He's not coming back, actually. I've made the decision.
Executive decision. I'm outvoted, huh?
Yeah. No vetoes here, bitch. Or is it the veto on the other? It doesn't fucking matter. All right. So before we go, guys, hey, how's it going? There are 240 dots on an arcade Pac-Man game.